Great question, Scott. Fucking hell.
I was around 9 years old when I started skateboarding. My dad influenced me as he still went to the skate park with his friends. It became something me and my dad did together, or I would go to the park across the road and practice. Eventually, my dad built me my own skate ramp in my garden. We used to go to Revolution Skate Park in Broadstairs every week. As I progressed, we visited skate parks all over the place, London, Barking and Brighton, to name a few. I met many people, both professional skateboarders and friends. I wanted to make this documentary about a local professional skateboarder, Craig Questions, and he is someone I find very interesting and always has stories to tell.
I'm Craig Questions, Scott. I'm a professional skateboarder from Whitstable, Kent. I ride for Heroin Skateboards, Sabbath Wheels, sort of get Ace Trucks, Alter Skate Shop. I think that's it. I think. I started skating when I was 12. I remember my dad was dying of cancer and I had no friends in school and I had no sort of social group or peers. And I got into, it's so hard to try and recollect back to the exact point of why you started skating. But I started skating and it was like the one thing that I'd found that was, how do I say it? It's quite hard to try and articulate really. So I started skating at the top of Ballstall Hill on Ashurst Avenue, the house I grew up in. And there was some kids knocking about and one of them had a board, an old like shit Sainsbury's setup thing, like an toy shop board crap. And I had to go on that and I was quite hooked from the beginning. I always felt like there was a skateboard kicking about somewhere. But then I got into it and it was kind of all them frustrations and not really understanding your place in the world. Everything seemed to come together with this one thing. You know, it's a massive, dominant, important part of my life, really. I started skating when I was 12 or whatever, and then there'd be periods where you wouldn't skate and you would and you wouldn't. And then I met a really good friend of mine, Dan Singer. I remember exactly when it was. And we were about 13 and we were, trying to find our place in the world, trying to work it all out. And we used to take the piss out of like heavy metal and stuff. There was Kerrang, a music channel, and there was a magazine. And I remember he bought an issue of Kerrang because it had a free CD with it. And on the front cover of the CD there was a picture of someone doing a backside air in Del Mar. Like a really rad old 80s photo, and it was all neon colours and it was like, what's this? Like, fucking hell, it's got a skateboard on it. Not even anything to do with the And then it was the guy from, I don't know, it was like some crap pop punk band, like Offspring or something. It was a guy from them, and it was like 10 tracks that influenced him. They were all pretty like shit. But there was like a Minor Threat song, and there was a Black Flag song, and there was a TSOL song. And I remember we heard these bands, and it was like, early 80s hardcore. It was just so fast and aggressive. And it fed into exactly how I thought and what I thought skating should be. Do you know what I mean? It kind of went hand in hand. It's really fast, aggressive sort of punk made by these teenagers who are all pissed off, and then you're skating and trying to, fly off ledges and stuff. So that was like the real turning point where it's like, fucking hell, this is what we're into. And the punk thing and the hardcore thing went hand in hand with skating. So it was like straight away, I was like, right, I think I've found a tribe of people and I think I've found my thing. So, and it's funny because I guess at that age you think it's all brand new and it's like, yeah, we've just discovered all this stuff, but it'd been going on for 30 years before we were even, do you know what I mean? But to us it was new and exciting. Again, me and my friends, we started doing the zine and we called it Roadkill, classic, being 15-year-olds and trying to find an obnoxious name. So yeah, we started making the zines, and from that led into screen printing. We both got really interested in screen printing. So we started printing our own shirts and things and patches and, so it started really unfolding, started rolling, it was the first kind of introduction to, you know, self-publishing and making work and stuff. It was a real nice, innocent time actually. There was a sort of a big crew of us from Whitstable, and none of us drunk or smoked or done drugs or anything. Like, that was never a big part of like what we wanted to do. We were like teetotal, straight edge or whatever. So it always felt back then there was so much time to be productive. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't like one thing took over. We weren't skating more than we were making work, or we weren't. It was like we'd skate all day and then sort of draw and make work and screen print all night. And again, I guess because there was sort of a crew of us, like-minded individuals or whatever, everyone was feeding off everyone else. So it was a real, you know, I fondly look back on it. It couldn't have been better, really. Again, I was always skating all the time, and we were travelling all the time, so we were meeting people all over, and we'd met like French, who's a quite known sort of skate illustrator, and I was familiar with Foss, the guy that owned Parent Skateboards, the company I ride for now. So yeah, travelling a lot and stuff, and then I entered a competition that was in an indoor skate park in Rochester or something, and one of the judges was a guy called Stu Smith. He owned a company called Love and Skate, and he was a screen printer, an amazing screen printer. And because I was interested in screen printing, I sort of knew of him. I wanted to meet him for that. So luckily, I placed pretty well in the competition. So I guess he'd noticed me skating and the way I was skating and stuff. And then he said I could come and do. I was at college at the time, so both me and Dan were at Canterbury College. And he asked if I wanted to go up and stay with him and do like work experience. So that was quite a good sort of foot in the door. And it wasn't even intentionally, you know, it was more, I was excited about the screen printing element of it. Obviously he's a skater and we were skating, and then he was saying how much he liked my skating, which was a massive compliment, and he asked me if I wanted to ride for his company, Love and Skate. So that's when I very first got sponsored. I must have been about 15. Yeah, I rode for Love and Skate, and I started getting in the magazines. And conveniently, I haven't got the first photo I had in the magazine. But, you know, I started getting some photos of me in the magazines that I cut out of all the magazines, because otherwise there's a massive pile of them. But yeah, so I was getting in the mags and picking up other small sponsors and stuff. And then it just went from there, really. So yeah, this is some photos. So I rode for Love and Skate since I was like 15. 16, 17, 18, you know, 4 years. And I've been on a bunch of trips all around Europe. I went to South America. You know, it's really good. And then I went to London, and then I met Foss and started skating with Foss a lot. This was the first board graphic I'd ever done. I've got the board as well, because I could show that in a minute. So I was asked to do that, and then I was skating with Foss really regular. And I was always a massive fan of everything he'd done, all his artwork and heroin skateboards. And then he asked me to ride for him, so it was a really big honour actually, because as a young kid I was obsessed with it. It was my favourite brand, and I loved the skating, and I think the way that I skated suited heroin. You know, I was kind of more non-conventional. I took a lot of influence from early 80s skating, you know, so I was quite influenced by that. So, and it was at a time where people weren't, I guess not as many people were skating like that, you know. Obviously every 14-year-old kid's dream to be a pro skater. So I felt quite honoured. Here's my first pro award. So there it is. I felt quite honoured. But I don't know, at the same time, I don't know if like being a sponsored skateboarder and the effect was kind of wearing off. So I don't know. Again, it was so long ago. I felt like I was slowing down a little bit at that time. So maybe in my younger 20s might have been a better time. I don't know, but. No, it's like an honour, you know, like I say, it's every 14, 15-year-old's dream to like have a pro board with your name on it. So it did feel like, it's a massive achievement, isn't it? So yeah, of course it's an achievement. At the time, this board was massive because it's like 10 inches, and there weren't many companies, because this was over 10 years ago now, there wasn't as many companies making boards this big. And I guess because I was like 80s skating, I like the shape boards, and the way that I skated, I wanted a bigger board. So that's what was good about it. So I wanted a big board, although I've never ever skated one. I've never skated one of my own boards ever. So yeah, the graphic was just kind of, I don't know, just the homage to sort of 80s board graphics, you know, quite neon coloured. And there is a reference because I cut a dead cat's head off when I was at university. So that's what that reference is. Don't know if you want to put that in there. Yeah, so again, over the years I've done loads of board graphics for Heroin and other numerous companies. This series was one of the last I've done. Oh, I think that top graphic looks nicer than the rest of them. And they're good because they're dip kind of boards. Always falling in the theme of skateboarding, which is loads of horrible stuff, you know. Probably put some Monet graphics on the bottom of a board or something, you know. But yeah, so this was one of the last series I've done. I've just done a series now that's just come out, but the boards haven't come out in England yet, so waiting for them to come out. That one. Oh, look at the colour on that pink, looks real nice. So yeah, here's the first board. I showed the picture earlier. Here's the first board I ever done when I was like 19. So not much has changed really. But yeah, so that was years ago. So yeah, they're just a few. So it always feels like I want to be doing something, and being productive and doing something. So I started again. I had a big time where I weren't making zines and self-publishing work, but I've just started again. And the last thing I've made was this zine, which is I drove up the Mississippi Delta and I went to the south of America in last September. And I found it quite captivating. And then when I come back, I read loads of American Civil War history and slavery narratives, and I've always been really interested in history as well. So then I drove up all around the deep south, up into the Mississippi Delta, and so it's just it's a zine of photographs I've taken, and kind of history of the South, and sort of what's the word? Analytical, critical look of the South and its history and what it is now, as you know, from where it's come from. So that's the last thing I made that I was quite proud of. So you know, yeah, still doing a lot of skateboard graphics and stuff. So here's a wheel graphic that I've just recently done. So yeah, it's always something going. I've always got something going, or you know, trying to work out trips or making zines or releasing stuff. So. You know, it's good to stay productive.